I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I'm 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I'm Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, and Davy Crockett. I'm Lee.
Coming to you from the D-Tom Studios in the free state of Florida, sponsored by Maker's Mark Bourbon, this is Don't Tread on America. Alrighty, how's everybody doing out there today? It is Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. I'm back. Had a nice little 2-week hiatus. I don't want to say it was nice because I'd rather have been doing shows, but I worked so much those past 2 weeks. Literally had one day off, and I just had too much shit to do a show. I actually worked today, but it's a little bit calmer right now, so I'm able to bring you a show, and I'm going to bring you a couple shows this week. So guys, please make sure you follow the show, whatever podcast app you're listening to this on. Make sure you're following the show, you subscribe, whatever that button is there. There's no fees, there's no subscription fees, there's no Patreons, none of that bullshit. I'm just here to get the word out, okay? So do me a favor, follow the show, and make sure you share this episode and other episodes with your friends. Get them to follow too. And if you want to support the show, you go to the sponsors that we'll talk about later on. And if you want to help out a charity, you go to the D-Tom store. You can buy something from the D-Tom store, which is blowing up lately. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be giving a nice little donation here in a couple of days to Tunnels to Towers from all of you guys patronizing. I don't know if that's the word. You know what I'm talking about. Going to the D-Tom store and buying stuff. I don't want the money. I just want the stuff to be on the streets so that people can see it. I wonder what the hell it is. Guys, also, make sure you follow the show on social media. Don't Tread on America on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, on the Ticker Talker, and, of course, on the Twitter X Machine, D-Tom Podcast 1776. We also have a website. If you're not on social media, go there, don'ttreadonamerica.com, and from there you can access all the things there. You can also watch the show on Rumble, Don't Tread on America TV. If you have any questions, concerns, anything you want to reach out to me about, you can hit me up. Email me, donq at don'ttreadonamerica.com. And don't think I forgot, but we're going to crank it up with a little bit of Damn Yankees right now. Don't Tread on America version, courtesy of one Ted Theodore Nugent. Oh, I thought we lost internet there for a second. But that's fine. Just a little blip in the matrix. Guys, today we are going to talk about some shit. I've got about 3 shows lined up for this week. So we're going to get this one out the way, and then I'll record some more in the next couple of days. So please, make sure you're following the show. This one, we're going to talk about Project PRISM.
You
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Don't Trout America, the only show that still believes the Constitution wasn't written as a suggestion. Of course, I'm your host, Don Q, broadcasting from somewhere they haven't triangulated yet. Today is going to be a good one, guys. We're going deep, because what we're talking about isn't a single program or a few cameras. It's the architecture of control that's been assembling for decades. And the people who pretend it's all just for safety and innovation are either useful idiots or active participants. Today we're talking Project PRISM, the NSA's digital skeleton key into the tech giants. We're talking the data center boom that turned half the countryside into humming server farms. We're talking flock safeties, 120,000 plus cameras turning every road into a searchable timeline of your movements. And we're connecting them the way the official story never will. We're not dismissing conspiracy angles just because the smoking gun memo is still classified. History shows the government hides the worst of it until the whistleblower forces their hands, or until it's too late to reverse. Snowden proved it once. The church committee proved it before him. If you think they've suddenly become transparent, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn and a flock camera watching you cross it. Buckle up. This is Project PRISM, the silent grid. We're going to the sources, the history, the patterns, and every reasonable conspiracy that fits the facts better than the press releases. We'll get to it here in just a second. Hang tight. Why did it do that? Alright, guys, so let's start where the modern version got its receipts. 2007, Project America Act, the FISA Amendments Act of 2008, and Section 702, the NSA's prison program. SIGAD US 984XN goes live. Microsoft first in September of 07, Yahoo in 08, Google, Facebook in 09, and Apple later. The leaked slides Snowden handed over in 2013 showed the NSA collecting emails, chats, videos, photos, VoIP file transfers, social network details directly from the companies. Servers under court-approved selectors. The official story goes foreign targets only. Oversight by the FISA court. Reality, according to documents, it became the number one source of raw internet intelligence. 91% of Section 702 internet traffic in some reporting. Here is Edward Snowden.
Talk a little bit about how the American surveillance state actually functions. Does it target the actions of Americans?
NSA and the intelligence community in general is focused on getting intelligence wherever it can, by any means possible, that it believes, on the grounds of sort of a self-certification, that they serve the national interest. Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically. And to do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time, simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends. So while they may be intending to target someone associated with a foreign government or someone that they suspect of terrorism, they're collecting your communications to do so. Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector, anywhere. Where those communications will be picked up depends on the range of the sensor networks and the authorities that that analyst is empowered with. Not all analysts have the ability to target everything, but I, sitting at my desk, certainly have the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
One of the extraordinary parts about this episode is that usually whistleblowers do what they do anonymously and take steps to remain anonymous for as long as they can, which they hope often is forever. You, on the other hand, have decided to do the opposite, which is to declare yourself openly as the person behind these disclosures. Why did you choose to do that?
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy. And if you do that in secret consistently, as the government does when it wants to benefit from a secret action that it took, it'll kind of give its officials a mandate to go, hey, tell the press about this thing and that thing, so the public is on our side. But they rarely, if ever, do that when an abuse occurs. That falls to individual citizens, but they're typically maligned. It becomes a thing of these people are against the country, they're against the government. But I'm not. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
Have you given thought to what it is that the U.S. government's response to your conduct is in terms of what they might say about you, how they might try to depict you, what they might try to do to you?
Yeah, I could be, rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of their third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations, or they could pay off the triads, or any of their agents or assets. We've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be. You can't come forward against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and be completely free from risk, because they're such powerful adversaries that no one can meaningfully oppose them. If they want to get you, they'll get you in time. But at the same time, you have to make a determination about what it is that's important to you. And if living unfreely but comfortably is something you're willing to accept, and I think many of us are, it's the human nature. You can get up every day, you can go to work, you can collect your large paycheck for relatively little work against the public interest, and go to sleep at night after watching your shows. But if you realize that that's the world that you helped create, and it's going to get worse with the next generation and the next generation who extend the capabilities of this sort of architecture of oppression, you realize that you might be willing to accept any risk. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as the public gets to make their own decisions about how that's applied.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
We are currently sitting in a room in Hong Kong, which is where we are because you traveled here. Talk a little bit about why it is that you came here. And specifically, there are going to be people who will speculate that what you really intend to do is to defect to the country that many see as the number one rival of the United States, which is China, and that what you're really doing is essentially seeking to aid an enemy of the United States with which you intend to seek asylum. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's a couple assertions in those arguments that are sort of embedded in the questioning of the choice of Hong Kong. The first is that China is an enemy of the United States. It's not. I mean, there are conflicts between the United States government and the Chinese PRC government, but the peoples inherently, we don't care. We trade with each other freely. We're not at war. We're not in armed conflict, and we're not trying to be. We're the largest trading partners out there for each other. Additionally, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of free speech. People think, oh, China, great firewall. Mainland China does have significant restrictions on free speech, but the people of Hong Kong have a long tradition of protesting in the streets, of making their views known. The internet is not filtered here, no more so than any other Western government. And I believe that the Hong Kong government is actually independent in relation to a lot of other leading Western governments.
If your motive had been to harm the United States and help its enemies, or if your motive had been personal material gain, were there things that you could have done with these documents to advance those goals that you didn't end up doing?
Absolutely. I mean, anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market to Russia. They always have an open door, as we do. I had access to, the full rosters of everyone working at the NSA, the entire intelligence community, and undercover assets all around the world, the locations of every station we have, what their missions are, and so forth. If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., that you could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon. But that's not my intention. And I think for anyone making that argument, they need to think, if they were in my position, and you live a privileged life, you're living in Hawaii in paradise and making a ton of money, what would it take to make you leave everything behind? The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessary to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy. Even our agreements with other sovereign governments, we consider that to be a stipulation of policy rather than a stipulation of law. And because of that, a new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority, we need more power, and there will be nothing that people can do at that point to oppose it, and it'll be turnkey tyranny.
Now, what you have to understand is that interview was back in 2013, okay? Now, play that again in your head. And he says, the months and years ahead. This was 13 years ago. Look where we're at today, okay? And that's what we're going to get into. Remember, the companies initially denied direct access. Later, the story shifted to we comply with lawful orders. The Washington Post and The Guardian published the slides. Subsequent reporting showed financial arrangements between the NSA's Special Source Operations and the partners. Utah data center, Bluffdale, comes online around the same period. A massive facility critics say was built to hold the fire hose. William Binney, the NSA veteran who quit over treacherous programs, called out the scale. The official denials never match the documents. Now, the conspiracy angle is that we don't soft pedal. We're not going to soft pedal these. PRISM wasn't an aberration. It was the formalization of what had been growing since post 9/11 expansions and even earlier. The same companies that built the cloud and the social graph became the collection points. Once the data is on their servers, a legal process or a seeker one gets it. And once the infrastructure exists, the selectors expand. Mission creep is not a theory, it's a historical pattern. So, let me delete that. We'll go to this one. So, this is from electrospace.net. This was in 2014. Let me see. Is this? All right. Let's go to it. In June last year, with the Snowden leaks, started with the disclosure of the PRISM program. For many people, it stands for NSA surveillance in general because they often have still no idea what PRISM is actually about. Therefore, this article presents almost everything we know about the PRISM program, combining information from earlier postings and from other media and government sources. So, most of what we know about PRISM comes from an internal NSA presentation of 41 slides. Edward Snowden initially asked the Washington Post to publish the full slide deck, but the paper refused, and so only 4 subsequently published by The Guardian. Other slides were revealed later on. Until now, a total of 19 slides have been published, and another 4 were incidentally or partially shown on television. This means that the remaining 18 slides are still being withheld. All known slides are here in order that probably comes closest to the original presentation. So the first slide here is one of the first 4 revealed by The Guardian and the Washington Post on June 6 of 2013 and shows the title of the presentation, which says PRISM US 984XN Overview. The slides are marked top secret, which means they are classified as top secret and protected by the control system for special intelligence. The dissemination is strictly controlled by the originator, while it's generally prohibited to release them to foreign nationals. The Signet Activity Designator, SIGAD, of the PRISM program is US 984XN, which integrates that PRISM is part of the Blarney family and used for collecting data under the authority of the FISA Amendments Act. The media have redacted the name of the person who is the PRISM collection manager, a title which is followed by S35333, which is NSA's internal organization designator for a unit of the Special Source Operations, SSO. The logo of this division is in the top left corner of each slide, which is opposite corner of the PRISM program itself. Immediately after the first slide of the presentation were published, some people thought it could be a fake or Photoshop because they were not professionally looking design and the copy-paste elements. After more, and especially far more complex slides became available, we can now assume the presentation is to be genuine. So, following slides about the working of the PRISM programs in general. Slide 2 was one of the first 4 revealed by The Guardian and Post. Shows short introduction to the world's telecommunications. The diagram shows the majority of international communications from Latin America, Europe, and even Asia flow through the United States, which makes it easy for NSA to intercept them on American soil. Note that most of the communication from Africa, the continent where many jihadist groups and Middle East went into recent years, are going through Europe, which explains why NSA sometimes needs European partner agencies like the Netherlands to access them. So on this next slide, you'll see the companies that are involved. So you see Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Paltalk, YouTube, Skype, AOL, and Apple. What they receive in collections are emails, chats, video and voice, videos, photos, stored dates, file transfers, video conferencing, notifications of target activity, logins, etc., online social networking details, and special requests. We see under the PRISM, the NSA is able to collect email, chat, video, voice, messages, photos, but there are also notifications of target activity. This was interpreted, by the Post as a function that the NSA analysts live notifications when target logs on or sends an email. But these notifications are clearly listed as collected data. It's more likely they refer to notification messages when you get someone's logs in an internet chat room or an instant messenger, or when you receive an email through an email client. It is possible through that NSA analysts can get a notification when new communications from a target they are watching becomes available in the NSA systems. Whether near real-time monitoring or of a target's communication is possible depends on the way these data points are made available to NSA. Now, this PRISM program cost around $20 million a year. So the different companies went online with this. Microsoft in 07, Yahoo 08, Google 09, Facebook 09, Paltalk, which I don't even know what that is, 09, YouTube in 10, Skype in 11, AOL in 11, and Apple in 12. According to the book Der NSA Complex, which was published by Der Spiegel in March of 2014, PRISM also gained access to Microsoft's cloud service, SkyDrive, now called OneDrive, as of March of 2013. This was realized after months of cooperation between FBI and Microsoft. So this goes on, and I'm going to tell you, simple way, if you guys want to read this, is go to electrospaces.net. Okay? I'll put this up on the website if you guys care to read the whole thing, and you can see what we're talking about here. But essentially, what this is everyone listening to this, I would assume for the most part, has an Apple or a Samsung device. Or, maybe not Samsung, but what's the Android, right? So Android runs off of Google. Apple runs off of iOS. Both of these are part of this situation. Now, if you have a smartphone of whatever kind, what is one of the things that these companies constantly try to get you to do? Sign up for their cloud services. And that's part of this program. Anything you put in your phone, pictures of any kind, and I want to emphasize any kind, okay, these people have. Now you might think, who am I? I'm just some random dude that's, I can't even use myself as an example, and the reason I say that is because I do this show. No matter how big or small this show is, the things that I talk about, I know for a fact are being tracked. And you know what? I don't care, because everything I'm reading is available on the internet for anyone to read. Okay? There's keys to finding this stuff more so than not, and we'll talk about that later. But the point being is this: if you're just some random dude or chick and you don't think nothing about it, and you send your wife a little picture, you're sending your husband a little picture, I'm not going to go into any details, let's just say a little picture. They have that little picture, and God forbid, if you happen to get into a conversation with somebody about something, just know that that stuff can be used against you. So, the history parallel number one. COINTELPRO, FBI, 1950s to 1970s. Infiltrated, disrupted, smeared civil rights, anti-war, the Black Panthers, even Martin Luther King. The Church Committee in the 1970s exposed it. The public was shocked. Reforms were promised. Then, the tools simply migrated to new legal authorities and new technology. Same impulse, total awareness of domestic threats as defined by the state. So now we fast forward, the same companies that sat inside PRISM, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, the hyperscalers, pour hundreds of billions of dollars into data centers. In the 2010s, cloud migration started. Then in 22, onward to today, generative AI. Power demand projected to double. Facilities the size of small towns. AI factories is what they call the official story. ChatGPT needs GPUs. Streaming needs bandwidth. The economy needs it. Fine. Partial truths to that. And we've talked about this. We've talked about data centers. But look at the timeline and the dual use reality. PRISM proved the appetite for bulk digital data. Snowden's leaks showed they were already storing and quarrying at scale. Then the commercial infrastructure explodes, exactly when the sensors multiply. You don't build an infinite storage and then compute solely for consumer apps, when the surveillance state has already demonstrated it wants everything. The Utah facility was the government version. The commercial boom is the privatized, deniable version. Outsource the warehouses, keep the access via legal process or partnerships. Then the conspiracy that we lean into. This is continuity of total information awareness. Poindexter's TIA got publicly killed after the outcry. The concepts, data mining across all sources, pattern recognition, preemption, did not die. They fragmented it into fusion centers, private contractors and commercial clouds that the government can compel or partner with. The energy and land grabs for data centers, well, they're dual-use critical infrastructures. Once built, the capacity is there for whatever the next sector or selector list requires. Absence of a declassified operation data empire. Memo does not mean the coordination isn't happening through classified channels, informal relationships, and shared incentives. Governments have been hiding worse for longer. So, we read into the Intersect 360. The other industry reports on AI data centers spend hitting hundreds of billions of dollars. So, I want you to think about that. We talk about this, and the reason we're bringing flock cameras into the conversation is because they are a part of this. That is another surveillance tool to surveil every single one of us. Yeah, they're going to tell you, oh, it's for your safety. It's to catch child, kidnappers and human traffickers and drug runners and all this stuff. But we all know what this is building up to. This is a way to track every single one of us, whether you're up to no good or you have no intentions to do anything wrong. You're still being tracked. And the funny thing is we're so focused on Flock, on the company that is doing these cameras. And some could say that possibly Flock is being set up to be the fall guy in all this, just to get rid of the Flock cameras, because that's what the public wants, to bring something else on board that's even worse. Because they can track you any which way they want. So before we get any further, guys, we're going to take a deep breath, but don't go far. We're going to hit our first commercial. Hang tight. All right, guys, this episode is brought to you by Alp nicotine pouches. When you're staying up all night connecting the dots and the caffeine's wearing off, you need something that keeps the edge without the mess. Alp nicotine pouches. Clean, strong, discreet. Go to alppouch.com/DTOM and get you a fat discount for Don't Tread on America listeners. Guys, stay sharp, stay free. Alp. You know I'm on the Alp. I got my Mountain Wintergreen. That's my favorite one. I've tried them all. Just depends on your flavor profile. Okay? They got a ton of flavors now, guys. Check them out. alppouch.com/DTOM. Get you a discount on your first order. We'll be right back in just a second. Hang tight. All right, so let's talk about Flock cameras. So that's what everyone's talking about right now. We're talking about Flock cameras. Everyone, podcast, news, government officials, people running for government office, whether it's local or state level, they're all talking about these Flock cameras. Okay, this isn't new. Okay, regardless of what you think, this has been around for about 10 years. Started in 2017. Explosive growth from 2020. By 2026, we're talking around 100,000 to 120,000 cameras. Contracts with thousands of agencies. Estimates hitting 40% of the U.S. departments in some reporting. Now, these are solar-powered, pole-mounted plate readers that also grab make, model, color, stickers, damage. They track your car. It's not even just, oh, here's Florida license plate number 1234. It's, brown Ford Escape with a coexist bumper sticker on the back and a dent on the left side. You see these things, you probably never even realized what they were. It's literally just a pole, little solar panel on the top with a camera pointing in the direction you're going. So you'll see it. It's catching the ass of your car. I see them all over the place. Now I've noticed them like crazy. Cloud database, national lookup, AI natural language search, blue truck with a ladder, or whatever description you type. Expanding into video clips, live feeds, people detection features, even sound. The official pitch, well, it's to solve crime, find stolen cars, locate missing persons. Some departments claim big clearance bumps. Reality on the ground is that it's a searchable history of vehicle movements without a warrant for the initial collection. Officers have misused it for personal stalking. Federal agencies, including ICE components, have access via local sharing. EFF analysts of search logs show protest-related queries. Security researchers found cameras exposed to the open internet. Cities canceling after discovering the national sharing was broader than sold. The ACLU, EFF, local activists mapping them, building avoidance tools, filing suits claiming Fourth Amendment problems as destiny increases. So, conspiracies that we do not water down. Flock is the soft rollout of the National Vehicle and Movement Tracking Layer that plugs into the same cloud infrastructure as the PRISM-era companies already operate. Local control is the sales pitch. The network effect is the reality. Once enough nodes exist, the database becomes a de facto real-time and historical map of who went where. Combined with other sensors, data brokers, and the AI tools already being marketed, you have a pattern of life analysts at street level. The same public-private model. Private company builds it, local governments buy it for quote-unquote safety. Federal entities ride the sharing, mission expands. We don't do facial recognition because we can jump from plate to person via other data, your license, your driver's license, those types of things. Retention is 30 days until it isn't. Opt-in national lookup becomes a default culture. So let's look at some historical parallels through time. East Germany's Stasi, not just informants, systematic files on everyone. The technology was primitive by comparison. Today, the sensors are automatic and the storage is infinite. Or look at China's social credit and camera grid. We mock it while building the Western commercial version under different branding. Post 9/11 fusion centers were supposed to share terrorism intel. They expanded into all crimes and all hazards. It's the same pattern. Now the funding is venture capital, including names that have backed other surveillance adjacent tech. The partnerships, ring discussions, and the reporting, the legislative pushback that is always one step behind the deployment. The fact that once the cameras are up, removing them requires political will that rarely materializes at scale. So here's the part that they hate. PRISM proved the digital collection from the platforms that own the cloud. The data center boom built the industrial capacity to store and process at planetary scale. Sold as AI, usable for anything, Flock deployed and distributed physical sensors that feed continuous locations and movement data into the same style of cloud. One continuum, digital life harvested upstream, physical movement harvested at the curb, storage and compute in the middle, legal authorities and private contracts as the access methods, oversight theater, and the we comply with the law as the public face. Now, is every data center a PRISM access? No public document says that. Is every Flock camera hardwired to Fort Meade? Well, no. Does the absence of the perfect conspiracy memo mean the functional result isn't a surveillance architecture with historical precedent for abuse? Hell no. The government has a document track record of secret programs, over collections, lying to Congress, and waiting out the outrage cycle. Church committee, Iran-Contra, warrantless wiretapping, PRISM itself. The pattern is the evidence when the specifics stay classified. Now, deeper conspiracies we examine without apology. Predictive systems and pre-crime logic migrating from research papers into operational tools. Energy infrastructure for data centers as strategic control points. Who gets the power when demand spikes? The normalization of constant observation so that the next generation doesn't even remember privacy as a baseline. The revolving door between agencies, contractors, and the tech firms. The way fighting crime and quote-unquote national security become the permanent justification for tools that can just as easily monitor dissent, abortion travel, immigration status, or political association. Snowden said with the capabilities were being built for a turnkey tyranny. The hardware and the legal scaffolding have only grown since. So, the original PRISM reporting, Washington Post and The Guardian, Snowden archive materials, Utah data center coverage, industry data center spend reports. Flocks, let me see, did I have another? Okay, that's what this is. Let me get rid of this. So Flockstone statements versus the ACLU EFF 404 media New York Times investigation on scale, sharing, misuse, and federal access. Legislative fights and city cancellations, academic and legal analysts of the ALPR constitutionally as density rises. Historical records on Cointel, TIA, fusion centers, and Stasi-style file keeping. So, this is what I wanted to play. Let me play this real quick. God damn it. I'm getting to it.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Jesus Christ.
We turn to a growing movement against Flock, an automatic license plate reader company used by over 5,000 law enforcement agencies in 49 states across the country. Critics have mapped over 100,000 Flock cameras in use on streets in rural and urban communities and accused Flock of building a nationwide mass surveillance system. Flock's cameras aren't like regular traffic cameras. Their surveillance technology records and tracks every car or human that comes into view. And then an AI algorithm catalogs the make, model, color, license plate number, bumper stickers, and even scratches. This personal information is then uploaded to a nationwide database that any law enforcement agency with a Flock contract can search, with little oversight on how they use what they find. Flock is marketed as a tool to fight crimes, but the cameras collect data on millions of vehicles, regardless of whether the driver is suspected of a crime. And as President Trump's immigration enforcement crackdown has escalated, concerns are growing over whether the local data from these cameras could be aiding the deportation dragnet. Flock claims it doesn't work with ICE and that ICE does not have direct access to Flock's cameras or systems or data. But an investigation from 404 Media last year found more than 4,000 searches that may have been conducted on behalf of or in partnership with ICE. This past May, an audit by the Dayton, Ohio Police Department found its cameras were searched more than 7,000 times for immigration enforcement purposes. This is what Flock CEO Garrett Langley said in a podcast just last month.
And so when the topic of immigration enforcement comes up, I'm like, guys, the company has no opinion on this. If the state of Texas wants to enforce immigration, they might use Flock, but they're going to go enforce immigration no matter what Flock does. And that's the state of Texas's choice. That's the city's choice. And it's tough, right? It's really tough for my employees to work at a company where they're like, oh, I don't like that law, but our technology is used to enforce it. But we can't make that our problem as a company.
So Flock is being used by universities, by big box stores. For more on it and the movement against it, we're joined here in New York by Chad Marlowe, Senior Policy Counsel at the ACLU, where he focuses on privacy, surveillance, and technology issues. He leads the ACLU's efforts against Flock. Explain what we're talking about here and how Flock has been used, Chad.
So basically, automatic license plate readers, or ALPRs, are cameras that take a picture of every single car that goes by it, not just the cars that are suspected of criminality or have done something wrong, but every single car. They record the information about the car, including where it is and when it was there, and then they put it into a database. And this is where it gets really scary, because now you have pictures of every innocent person who drives by in a database that is kept for a month or more and shared throughout the nation with all of Flock's law enforcement customers, and in fact, even internationally with people associated with Flock. And so essentially, you know, even though in America, you know, one of our core constitutional principles is privacy, we have a company working with governments to record the comings and goings of every single person in the country as if you and I and everyone else were potential criminals. And that is in my opinion, a very un-American take on privacy and the way that we engage in criminal justice enforcement.
And Chad, this company is less than 10 years old, and it spreads so rapidly. Could you talk a little bit about how it was created, and also what's its business model? Does it set up its does it rent spaces in on private property to set up its cameras, or is it using public rights of way or public streets? And if so, how is that permitted?
Yeah, so the company was formed by an engineer, billionaire engineer named Garrett Langley. And what is really interesting and very important about the company is that it is backed by almost $1 billion in venture capital investment. And that is very critical, because what those venture capitalists invested in was a company that basically trades privacy for profits. And so they will record the information about people. Flock always says it doesn't sell data, but Flock saying it doesn't sell data is like Ford Motor Company saying it doesn't sell steering wheels. Yes, I understand the larger product is cars and it's monitoring vehicles, but it's that data that is part of Flock's product, just like a steering wheel is part of Ford Motor Company's car product. So then it collects all this information, and the more information it can collect and the more it can share, the more value that their product is. And most recently, Flock was valued at almost an $8 billion company. And so in order to increase the value of their company, they need to take more people's data, invade their privacy more, and share it more broadly. And although they may say things like, we have certain methods in place and systems in place to prevent broader data sharing, to make sure it's not misused, that is all simple public relations response. Their venture capitalist investors who want to receive massive returns on their investment have forced Flock's hand and say we need to put the pedal to the metal, violate privacy as much as possible. If doing that will increase our profits, and there's a direct correlation between more monitoring, more surveillance, more data collection, more data sharing, and more profits.
But again, I wanted to ask you this issue of how do they do this, set up so many cameras? Are they, for instance, like cell phone companies that rent their towers in buildings to be able to create their network? Or how do they do it? How does Flock do it?
Right. So what they do is they go to your local police department and they say, we want to rent you the cameras that you need. We will also take care of storage. We will create a back system that will take care of data sharing. We'll do everything for you. All you need to do is sign on the dotted line. Now, what's interesting about Flock is this process of using your local police department, your local government, to increase their network to spy on everyone. They have to keep pushing that in order to get as broad of a network as they possibly can. And so they sneak in these contracts. They do it with their salespeople, but they try to do it out of public view. And what we've actually seen in the country is once eventually it comes into public view, because their cameras are fairly easy to recognize when you see them in public, communities have risen up throughout the country and demanded those contracts be canceled. In fact, in just the last 13 months, Nearly 60 municipalities have either canceled their Flock contracts or have said do not renew them. And in fact, Flock is going out in the country not only promoting its products, but trying to quash any efforts to promote transparency and public engagement before their contracts are signed, because they know the more the public knows, the greater resistance to the product will be, and they want to stop that anywhere they can.
Talking about that resistance, I want to turn to Tobias Halpern, a 19-year-old student at California Polytechnic State University, or Cal Poly, in San Luis Obispo. Tobias Halpern started the website DFlock SLO in January to inform people about Flock's 17 cameras on campus. Last month, the college president confirmed Cal Poly would not renew its contract with the company after the current one ends next May. Here's Cal Poly student Tobias Halpern on Connect with Jacob Soboroff on MS Now.
When you opt into Flock, when you buy a Flock camera like Cal Poly did, you don't just buy a surveillance camera, you're buying access and participation into this network. And so I think that's what really bothers people, and that's what really bothers students, and that's what bothered us at Cal Poly, is that as a Hispanic serving institution, they are going out and entering this network that has time and time again aided ICE in illegal deportations, and just created this surveillance dragnet that is really uncomfortable to anyone when you think about it.
One of Flock's loudest critics is Ben Jordan, a recording artist, popular YouTuber in Atlanta, Georgia, who worked with technology experts and journalists to expose Flock's security vulnerabilities. They were able to access cameras across the country, viewing not only live streams, but also 30 days of recorded content with the option to delete the footage. Here's a clip from his YouTube channel.
A few weeks ago, using a commercial search engine, I very easily found the administration interfaces for dozens of Flock safety cameras. I shared this information with 404 Media, and with John Gaines' help, that number quickly grew to nearly 70. None of the data or video footage was encrypted. There was no username or password required. These were all completely public-facing for the world to see, and some of them still are. You don't have to be an expert to find and gain access to this. You don't even have to type anything in to see every single person, vehicle, and activity that took place in these locations in the last 31 days. Whether you wanted to watch this footage live in real time or look at footage from a month ago, you could just point and click your way to it like you were watching Netflix.
I mean, this is really amazing. And you have the CEO of Flock, Garrett Langley, talking about the activist group called DFlock, calling it a, quote, terroristic organization. But because of tremendous backlash, he was forced to apologize. 20 seconds.
Yeah, so I would say, in addition to that being irresponsible, the great news is his attempt to combine DFlock and Antifa failed, because whether you're libertarian, conservative, MAGA, progressive, everybody has an objection to Flock. And so in our disunited country, we have united around our opposition to Flock, ALPRs, and government mass surveillance as a whole. And so we've got a wave, and we're going to ride it until we get our goals accomplished and end this mass government surveillance of people in the United States.
Chad Marlowe, senior policy.
So it's very interesting. Let me turn that down a little bit there. What he's saying there, and that's the key here. That's what I've been talking about with this whole situation with the Flock cameras, the data centers, all this stuff. And we're told it's for safety. It's for to find the bad guy, so to speak. Now, as far as them working with ICE, it's not even about that, because essentially what ICE will do is they will go to the local police station or the sheriff's department or the state police and access through them. ICE themselves don't have to have a contract with Flock to access these cameras. They go to the agencies that do have these capabilities. Now, I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say, well, I don't really mind that if that's what they're doing, because you can't give one without taking the other. So it's either they just go away, period. But like I said before, there are some people that believe that how do I want to put this Flock system's been around for almost 10 years. Why is it all of a sudden catching this notoriety? Is it to bring your attention to it, to say, okay, we're getting rid of flock, we're deflocking, this county, this city, this state, so on and so forth, we're getting rid of them, we're not renewing our contracts, it's a done deal, just to bring something else along that's even worse than what flock is, if you can imagine that. All right, hang tight. Second commercial. All right, so we're only getting started here, guys. But if you're listening to this on public Wi-Fi or a network you don't control, do yourself a favor. Go to nordvpn.com, guys, right now. Encrypt it, hide the location, stop making it easy. Use promo code DTOM for the Don't Tread on America special, because the grid doesn't sleep and neither should your operational security. NordVPN will be back in just a second. Hang tight. So before I continue, I want to touch on something that one gentleman was asking about renting the space for these cameras. If you happen to notice where these cameras are, they are all on public easement. So you're driving down the highway, well, that's state, county, whatever land. It's not in your front yard. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. But in your house, at your house, the first from the edge of the road to 6 feet in. Okay? So if you get a tape measure from the edge of the road, 6 feet in. You mow that yard, you edge that yard, you fertilize, you water, you do all the shit. 6 feet of that, technically, I mean, it is yours, but technically it isn't. What I mean by that is that's what they call public easement. So if wherever you live in whatever city, USA, and that city, town, municipality wants to put a flock camera, and you can look at it like this. If you live in a neighborhood that has a sidewalk going through it, like in my neighborhood, we have sidewalks, okay? So from the edge of the road to the sidewalk is, I don't know, maybe a foot and a half of space. Maybe 2 feet, I don't know. I never measured it. But I mow that, I weed eat that, I edge that, I fertilize that, I water that. But if the city I live in wants to stick a flock camera right there, it's not a goddamn thing I can do about it. In all honesty, I can be pissed and I can write my mayor and I can write my city council people and whatever, but ultimately that's public easement. And that's where these are being put. They're not coming to you, knocking on your door, hey, this is Bob from Flock, we want to put a camera in your front yard. No, it has nothing to do with you. Okay, it's just like buying a mailbox. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot, or maybe you have the money and you get someone to build you a nice fancy little mailbox and put it in your front yard, and you paid the money for that mailbox, whether it's $50 or $500. Do you know that once you put that mailbox in the ground, it is no longer your property? It is now the property of the federal government. Do you know that, remember when you were a kid, maybe you played mailbox baseball? That's a federal crime. But I bought the mailbox. I paid the money for it. I had it built. I had it installed. I put it in, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Think about it, guys. So every time a new layer appears, the defenders say no evidence of a master plan. That's the wrong standard when the actors classify the plans. Look at the ARC, wartime emergency powers that never fully sunset, Cold War domestic programs exposed only after the damage, post 9/11 authorities that metastasized, digital collection formalized in PRISM, physical sensors commercialized and networked, storage industrialized, each step sold as limited, necessary, temporary, or private, each step durable. The conspiracy is not that one cabal meets in a smoke-filled room and issues a single order. The conspiracy is that the emergent, incentivized, continuously funded construction of a system whose end state is comprehensive awareness of the population's digital and physical behavior. with access controlled by the state and its partners, and with the public perpetually told that the only people who worry are the guilty. The end state does not require a cartoon villain. It requires bureaucratic movement, corporate profit, fear of crime and terrorism, and a population that trades liberty for the promise of safety, one camera and one server rack at a time. We do not dismiss it, we map it. We name the historical rhymes. We demand the contracts, the audit logs, the retention policies, the sharing agreements, and the classified annexes. And we remember that every previous exposure was met with the same, "You're overreacting," until the documents drop. So, where does that leave us? Map the cameras in your town, guys. You can look this up. It's literally online. You can go and it'll show you exactly where flock cameras are in your neighborhood, in your city, in your town, in your county. They're not even hiding it. File the public records request. Support the lawsuits. Watch Section 702 fights. Question the data center subsidies and the power deals. Assume the tools will be used to the edge of their capability and beyond, because that is what the history shows. The silent grid is not science fiction. Parts of it are already alive. The rest is under construction. So, guys, I got one more commercial. Let's do this real quick. All right, guys, last break. You've been locked in for the long haul. Fuel up. Celsius energy drinks. Clean energy, no crash, so you can keep researching after the credits roll. Grab the DTOM flavor or whatever keeps you going. Stay awake. Celsius. Now, let's get to the end of this, guys. Real quick, you got to click the link to go to that Celsius store, okay? There's no website for me to give you. There is a link on the bottom of the podcast app in which you're listening to this on, okay? So, what you need to do, guys, is the Constitution still exists on paper. Whether it exists in practice depends on how many people refuse to sleepwalk into the cage. So, what you need to do is share this, archive it, mirror it. They can't redact the whole internet yet. Until next time, guys, this is Don't Tread on America. Keep your plates clean and your traffic encrypted. And please make sure you follow the show on social media. Don't Tread on America on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, on the Ticker Talker, and of course on the Twitter X Machine DTOM Podcast 1776. I post all sorts of shit, guys. I've posted a couple things on Facebook. It's going viral. Facebook. Viral, guys. Blowing up. Follow the show if you want to see some funny shit. Make sure whatever podcast app you're listening to this on, you follow the show. You subscribe, whatever that button is there. Hit that. And make sure you share this, like I said. Also, guys, go to Rumble, Don't Turn America TV, and check this show out. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, guys, give me a rating. Can you leave a review? Can you help a brother out? Trying to get out of this funk of the algorithm, and it takes you guys to share this and promote it. Please help a brother out. All right, guys, until next time, which will hopefully be Wednesday. So you guys have a great day, and like I said before, let's bond together behind this and show them who's really running the show. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you again hopefully on Wednesday. See you later. Peace.